The first thing you need to know is that mornings in Harper Square are usually quiet. Coffee carts steaming on the corner, pigeons fighting over crumbs, people too busy scrolling through their phones to notice much of anything. But that morning, you could feel it in the air. Something was about to snap. I heard the screech of tires before I saw anything. Patrolman Whiteford's cruiser cutting across the cracked asphalt like it owned the plaza. Captain Elijah Monroe, folks around here just call him Eli, was standing near the fountain, his old dress blues catching the early sun, metals polished but fading with time. He leaned on a cane that had seen better days, tapping it against the pavement in that steady, deliberate way of his, the kind of rhythm only a man who'd survived things you couldn't imagine could carry. Whiteford got out of the car like he had something to prove. He slammed the door, squared his shoulders, and sneered. That uniform's worn thin. You think you're still a hero, Pops? Yeah, he said that. Loud enough for everyone to hear. The crowd froze. Even the pigeons stopped. Eli didn't say a word. Didn't have to. He just stared back, calm, steady, like the weight of every battle he'd fought was behind his eyes. But Whiteford wasn't done. He stormed forward, grabbed Eli's wrist, and twisted hard. There was this sickening crack. Not bone, not yet, but the sound of Eli's cane splintering under Whiteford's boot. The pieces scattered across the ground like shrapnel. Someone gasped. A little girl clutched her mom's skirt. Phones started coming out, shaky hands hitting record. Eli didn't fight back, didn't even raise his voice. He just straightened his shoulders and said quietly, "You don't have to do this." That only made Whiteford angrier. He shoved Eli against the squad car, cuffed him so tight his wrists bled, and spat, "Walk on, old man." And then, just when it felt like the air might split, Doris Reynolds, this gray-haired widow holding 2 grocery bags, stepped forward, voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the hush. "He saved my son," she said. "Fallujah, '03. He carried him out when no one else would." For a moment, Whiteford faltered, but only for a moment. "Step back, ma'am," he barked, hand hovering near his taser. Doris didn't move. Neither did the crowd. And that's when someone, a teenager in a hoodie, whispered, "Go live." Within seconds, a 16-second clip was streaming across every social platform in town. Eli's broken cane on the ground, cuffs biting into his skin, and Whiteford smirking like he'd WOMB by the time Whiteford shoved Eli into the back seat and slammed the door. The clip had racked up thousands of views. By the time the squad car hit the station's lot, it was everywhere, and that's when things got messy. See, what nobody knew, not even Whiteford, was that Eli wasn't just some old vet. He was an active federal consultant. Special clearance. Hidden RFID tag in his uniform. That arrest set off alarms deep inside Quantico. Within minutes, emails were flying, red alerts lighting up secure terminals, and somewhere in a basement full of humming servers, an analyst named Vera Hall was muttering, "We've got a problem." Back at Bitter Creek PD, Eli sat in holding, quiet as ever, fingertips brushing the frayed edge of his Ranger tab beneath his jacket. Outside, the phones wouldn't stop buzzing. People were furious. Justice for Monroe was trending. Some were calling it abuse, others screaming, "We didn't know the whole story." But everyone agreed on one thing. The precinct cameras going dark during the arrest. That smelled like a cover-up. And then it happened that an unmarked SUV rolled up outside the station. No sirens, no lights. 3 federal agents stepped out like shadows, badges flashing just long enough for everyone to see who was really in charge now. Agent Maria O'Hara walked straight to Lieutenant Carmichael's office, dropped a sealed warrant on his desk, and said, "Calm as you like, we're taking over." Monroe walks. "Whiteford's coming with us." Carmichael didn't argue. He just nodded. Because you don't argue when the feds roll in with paperwork signed by the director himself. 5 minutes later, they walked Eli out of holding, uncuffed but unbroken, his fractured cane tucked under one arm. And at the same time, they cuffed Whiteford. The same steel, same click, but now the power had shifted. No shouting, no resisting, just silence. You could hear the weight of it in every footstep as they walked him past his fellow officers. And that silence, it didn't stop there. Within days, an investigation called Operation Recalibrate rolled out nationwide. 7 precincts audited. Dozens of cases frozen. Years of buried complaints dragged back into daylight. Every recruit in the academy was handed a new training manual with a single phrase printed on the first page: respect before rank. And right under it, a still frame of Eli Monroe, blood on his sleeve, cane shattered, standing straight. The caption read, "Honor isn't given. It's preserved." Meanwhile, Harper Square turned into something else entirely. Folks started leaving flowers and flags at the fountain where it all began. Veterans showed up in uniform. Students painted murals on the station walls. Eli's silhouette, cane in hand, beneath 3 words in bold red letters, still standing. Even Doris came back one morning, grocery bag in one hand, white rose in the other. She set it down where his cane had splintered and whispered, "Thank you." But not everyone was happy. Certain networks pushed edited footage, cutting out Eli's Ranger tab, spinning a story where Whiteford was the victim and Monroe was a potential threat. For a while, the whole country seemed divided, hashtags battling in real time. But then Maya Fletcher, that teenage girl in the hoodie, posted the full clip herself. Unedited. Raw. "Watch both versions," she said. "Decide for yourself." By midnight, the truth had 1 million views. By morning, it had 10. And then came the final twist, one nobody expected. Whiteford's name was removed from the Elmwood County Distinguished Service plaque. Quietly. No press conference, no ceremony. Just a black slash drawn through his engraved letters, bold and permanent, that a retired Marine named Specs Martinez stood there, cap in hand, and said softly, "He surrendered the right to this honor." And just like that, it was done. These days, Eli doesn't talk much about what happened. He lives in a small house on the edge of town, still walks with that half cane they gave back to him. Every so often, he gets letters from recruits, from kids who watched the clip, from families of people freed by the audit. Sometimes he opens them. Most times, he just smiles, folds them neatly, and tucks them into a drawer. But if you ever pass by Harper Square in the evening, you'll see it. A small bronze plaque beneath the fountain, installed without ceremony. No hashtags, no trending clips, just 5 words carved into steel, catching the last light of the setting sun. "I need the system to remember." And if you stand there long enough, watching the crowd drift past, you'll feel it too. The quiet weight of a story that refuses to fade, because some moments don't end. They echo.so, what do you think? Did justice finally win here? Or is this just the beginning of something bigger? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your take. I thought that day in Harper Square was the peak. You know, the kind of moment people talk about for years, where justice finally tips the scales and everyone walks away knowing the world's changed just a little. But I was wrong. That was just the start. Because the thing about truth is, once it's out there, you can't control where it goes. And this tiny spark from a cracked cane and a 16-second clip, caught fire faster than anyone was ready for. By the time the sun went down, Harper Square wasn't just a plaza anymore. It was a stage. Reporters parked their vans at every corner, protesters showed up with handmade signs, and somebody even set up a live stream right across from the fountain. At first, people came to demand answers. But then the questions got bigger and messier. Was this just one bad cop? Or was the system broken? See, the department tried damage control right away. Press release, carefully worded statements, you know the drill, pending investigation. No comment at this time. But people weren't buying it. Not after the clip, and definitely not after the precinct cameras mysteriously failed at the exact moment Eli's cane splintered on the concrete. That smelled like a cover-up. And once you say those words out loud, you can't take them back. The next morning, Eli's face was everywhere. News channels, Twitter feeds. Even late-night hosts were making jokes about how the Harper Square blackout sounded like something out of a conspiracy thriller. And through it all, Eli stayed quiet. That's just who he is. No press conferences, no statements, no speeches on courthouse steps. He let everyone else scream and argue while he sat on his porch, drinking his coffee black and watching the chaos unfold on a little old TV that barely got 3 channels. But there was one thing nobody knew yet, something even Eli didn't see coming. See that uniform he wore? It wasn't just for nostalgia. Buried inside the lining was a tiny RFID chip, federal clearance, high-level stuff. Turns out, Eli wasn't just a decorated vet. He was still technically active. A consultant for counterinsurgency strategy, tapped occasionally for classified work, which meant the second Whiteford cuffed him without authorization, alarms went off in places most people never even think about. Quantico that I heard later that in some secured basement, an analyst named Vera Hall saw his name flash red on her monitor. Within minutes, phones were ringing, encrypted messages firing, and a federal team was mobilized. When they showed up at Bitter Creek PD, no lights, no sirens, just quiet authority. The whole building shifted. I wasn't there, but Grant told me later, he's the rookie who tried to stop Whiteford, that the silence in that station was louder than any protest. Eli walked out free, cane in hand, back straight. Whiteford walked out in cuffs, and for a moment, it felt like the story was over. But that was before the networks got involved. First came the spin. One big outlet, you know the type, aired an exclusive, showing heavily edited footage, cropped so you couldn't see Eli's Ranger tab. They slowed the frame where Whiteford raised his hand, made it look like he was defending himself. Lower third graphic, unknown suspect, possible resistance. The comments section went insane. Half the country calling Eli a hero. The other half convinced he'd done something wrong. It was exhausting to watch. But then, Maya Fletcher stepped in. You remember Maya, the teenager in the hoodie who went live? Turns out, she had the original clip, unedited, unfiltered, all 16 brutal seconds. And one night, sitting cross-legged on her bed with her laptop open and her cat asleep at her feet, she uploaded it herself with one line of text. Watch both versions. Decide for yourself. It blew up. Millions of views in hours. By morning, the edited narrative collapsed. Whiteford's defense crumbled next. Internal Affairs opened a civil rights case against him, and when federal warrants came down, his name vanished from the Elmwood County Distinguished Service plaque. No ceremony, no speeches, just a maintenance worker drawing a thick black line through his engraved letters while veterans stood by, hats off, in silence. I was there that day. And I swear, you could feel the weight of history pressing down on that courthouse lawn. But here's the thing, none of this stopped the noise. It got louder, because Operation Recalibrate had begun. 7 precincts audited nationwide. Dozens of cases frozen. Body cam failures flagged. Hidden complaints dragged out into daylight. Wrongful convictions overturned one by one. And through all of it, Eli's name became a symbol. Not just of what happened in Harper Square, but of every time the system failed someone who couldn't fight back. They even put his photo in the new FBI training manual. Not smiling, not posing, just standing there the way he stood that day, cuffs biting into his wrists, blood on his sleeve, head held high. Underneath, 6 words burned into every page. Respect before rank. Honor isn't given. Eli didn't ask for any of it. Didn't want it. But sometimes, history doesn't care what you want. These days, Harper Square looks different. There's a mural on the station wall. Eli's silhouette with his cane, painted in deep reds and golds. The words still standing curling underneath. People bring flowers there now. Sometimes kids leave handwritten notes. One just said, "Thank you for not falling." But if you ask Eli about it, he'll wave you off, grumble something about just doing what's right, and change the subject. That's just who he is. And yet, there's something about the way he watches people now. A little slower, a little more measured. Like he knows the story isn't over. Because here's the part nobody talks about. Someone cut those precinct cameras on purpose. And nobody, not the feds, not internal affairs, not even Vera Hall down in Quantico, has figured out who. Not yet. But Eli's waiting. And so are we, because maybe Harper Square was just the beginning, and the next time the system fails, people won't just record it. They'll rise.